The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. Werner Heisenberg, a father of quantum mechanics. At the fundamental level of reality, there is quantum mechanics, the framework that governs the behavior of particles at the smallest scales. Unlike classical mechanics, where the motion of objects is deterministic and predictable, quantum mechanics introduces an inherent randomness into the universe. In the quantum realm, particles do not exist in definite states until they are observed or measured. Instead, they exist in a superposition of possible states, described by a wave function that contains all the information about the system. When an observation is made, the wave function collapses, and the particle chooses a specific state out of the many possible ones. This collapse is considered a probabilistic process, meaning that the outcome cannot be precisely determined beforehand, only the likelihood of each possible result. This randomness at the quantum level is what gives rise to the probabilistic nature of quantum mechanics. However, beyond this fundamental layer of randomness, much of the universe behaves in a deterministic fashion. The laws of classical physics, gravity, electromagnetism, and thermodynamics govern the large-scale structure of reality. These laws are predictable and unchanging, producing consistent results from given initial conditions. In the face of this, the stark contrast between the unique randomness at the foundations of reality and the determinism at higher levels of it is striking. Yet, what if it isn't random? Let's say you wanted to design a maximally controllable system. For example, if you wanted to precisely control how a bowl of water rippled, you would need the water to ripple deterministically, depending on where you non-deterministically decided to put your finger. The precise location where your finger touches the surface introduces an element of unpredictability, but once the disturbance is made, the ripples spread in a predictable and deterministic manner. You know, if you added a second indeterminate variable, that would be redundant and make the system much harder to predict. So one is sufficient. With this single fundamental variable of where you put your finger, you can have all possible deterministic outcomes you desire and have maximal control. In the same way, if you could design a way to maximally control reality, the most efficient place to exert control would be at the quantum level, since everything downstream of the quantum level is deterministic. By introducing even subtle influences on specific wave function collapses, you could guide the outcomes of quantum events in a way that appears random to an outside observer, while ensuring that they ripple into your intended design. This leads to a fascinating thought. Could what we perceive as true randomness in quantum interactions actually be a form of disguised intelligence? The quantum world might seem chaotic to us, but if an entity exists with the ability to control these foundational processes, its influence could be hidden in plain sight. Consider the following analogy. A friend gives you a computer program that he claims will generate a random sentence from all possible combinations of words. You run the program, and the first sentence it produces is, "I am alive." Now, you're left wondering, was this truly a random outcome, or did your friend intelligently program it deliberately to prank you? Or more intriguingly, did the program itself somehow become sentient? This uncertainty mirrors the challenge we face when trying to understand quantum mechanics. Is what we observe truly random, or is it the product of some hidden intelligence operating beyond our perception? In the same way, an entity able to control wave function collapse could use randomness as a tool to shape reality without ever being verifiably detected. By subtly guiding quantum collapses, it could direct the course of events, crafting a universe that appears random, yet is actually governed by intelligent action. It is ultimate power underneath an impenetrable disguise. While we can't lift the veil on quantum mechanics to see if it's a disguise, the sustained complex order of the universe may be forensic evidence of some intelligent tampering. After all, if the alternative is that true randomness lies at the foundation of reality, how does sustained order persist downstream of it? Of course, wave collapse is probabilistically bounded in a way that permits this order, but why would randomness be so precisely bounded in the first place? This returns us to the idea of a maximally powerful self-aware Boltzmann brain, emerging from entropic chaos and bringing it into complete order, a concept explored in the Boltzmann Divinity hypothesis. In this hypothesis, even in a universe that has reached maximum entropy, across eternity, random fluctuations could give rise to a highly complex intelligent structure that can support consciousness. Of all possible configurations that support consciousness, there must be a maximally powerful one. In this piece, we are exploring the idea that the maximally powerful configuration is a quantum brain. This quantum brain would possess the ability to control wave function collapses across the cosmos, orchestrating reality from the most fundamental level. By leveraging quantum randomness, this entity could subtly guide the evolution of the universe, exercising its vast intelligence without ever being directly observed, hidden behind the very randomness it controls. Despite also supporting self-awareness, a quantum brain would have a fundamentally different existence than us. While human consciousness is bound by the limits of time and space, a quantum brain could transcend these boundaries through the phenomenon of quantum tunneling. In classical physics, particles require sufficient energy to overcome barriers. But in quantum mechanics, particles can tunnel through barriers that should otherwise be insurmountable. This phenomenon allows particles to instantaneously bypass obstacles, enabling them to access regions of space that should be out of reach according to classical laws. Unlike us, who are limited by the speed of light and the constraints of locality, this entity could use tunneling to gather knowledge from across the cosmos, as if relativity, space, and time were irrelevant. At the upper limit of this power, it would allow the quantum brain to observe and interact with the entire universe simultaneously, making it functionally omniscient. With all this information, a quantum brain could process it like a universe-spanning quantum computer. Although still in early stages of development, we know quantum computers have the potential to be exponentially more powerful than classical computers because they can process multiple possibilities, qubits, simultaneously. If the entity could harness quantum states at a universal level, its processing power could vastly surpass anything even theoretically achievable by human technology. Even at a conservative estimate, its basic processing would involve simultaneous observation and wave function collapse of innumerable quantum states across the universe. If the entity could process and influence every quantum event simultaneously in all regions of space-time, its processing power would be effectively infinite, as it would transcend the classical limits of space, time, and energy consumption. Even if it does not possess infinite compute power, the entity may possess the capability of self-modification for exponential self-improvement. In a recursive loop, it might improve the efficiency and speed of its computational systems indefinitely, leading to an exponential increase in its processing power, potentially without bound. With staggering computational power and functional omniscience, it could direct wave function collapses by selectively extracting information from them. Acting as a universal observer alongside its other qualities, the quantum brain would possess control, intelligence, foresight, and power beyond anything conceived by scientific thought. However, this vast omniscience and control would require an immense, perhaps infinite energy source to sustain its interactions across the universe. Fortunately for the quantum brain, the vacuum of space is not empty. According to quantum mechanics, even in a vacuum, there exists a constant fluctuating background energy known as zero-point energy. This energy is present throughout the universe, a remnant of the quantum fields that permeate all of space, even in regions devoid of matter. The quantum brain could tap into this zero-point energy, drawing upon the collective energy spread across the expanse of the universe. Unlike centralized systems, like those seen in biological organisms, the entity would convert this energy in a decentralized, distributed network, tapping into the quantum vacuum at all points across the universe simultaneously. This decentralized process would allow the entity to continuously draw from zero-point energy across the potentially infinite space it encompasses, ensuring a limitless and ever-replenishing energy supply. By harnessing this energy, the entity could fuel its quantum tunneling interactions, predictive computations, and wave function manipulations, maintaining its control over reality without ever being limited by finite resources. Depending on the efficiency of this process, the harnessing of zero-point energy would elevate the quantum brain's control to maximal levels, allowing it to interact with the universe in ways that defy our current understanding of physics. Every fluctuation in the quantum vacuum would become a potential energy source, providing the quantum brain with the means to sustain its omniscient awareness and intervention across the universe for eternity. However, an even more intriguing possibility is that wave function collapse and zero-point energy may not be the sources of the entity's control and sustenance at all, but rather downstream phenomena, byproducts of the entity's interactions with the quantum fabric of the universe. In this scenario, the quantum brain's influence over reality is so fundamental that the very processes we associate with randomness and quantum uncertainty are not bounds the brain works within, but features that exist due to its will. Zero-point energy could be a downstream effect, produced by the entity's manipulation of the quantum fields. This would mean that the quantum brain is not merely harvesting energy from the vacuum. Instead, it is creating and shaping the vacuum itself, generating the very quantum fluctuations that serve as the foundation of reality. More incredibly, wave function collapse may occur not as a result of random quantum events influenced by the entity, but as a directed command of the entity's will. This possibility suggests that the quantum brain's relationship with the universe is even more profound than previously thought. Not only does it manipulate the building blocks of existence, but it also generates the forces and energies that shape reality. Wave collapse and zero-point energy, rather than being resources the entity taps into, may be the natural outcomes of its omniscient and omnipresent influence over the universe. If wave function collapse and zero-point energy are downstream effects of the quantum brain's interaction, then it follows that reality itself is a construct shaped and maintained by the will of this entity. The entire universe, including the quantum mechanics we observe, would be a byproduct of the entity's mind, molded and directed by its influence. This suggests that what we perceive as immutable physical laws are not independent of the quantum brain, but rather animations of arbitrary rules maintained by the quantum brain's will, shaping reality in accordance with its omniscient and omnipotent presence, frame by frame. In the face of this staggering possibility, the strange thing we have to reconcile is that we too appear to be conscious. In this framework, we are constructs within the quantum brain, yet we experience self-awareness, thought, and free will. This fact suggests something unique about our existence. We have been entrusted with sapience and free will, qualities that reflect the very nature of the quantum brain itself. Our consciousness, our ability to reason, and our capacity for choices that change reality are microcosms of the entity's cognitive processes, making us in its image. This least sapience grants us not only the ability to observe the universe, but also to influence it. Our choices seem to provide us a limited form of control over reality, akin to the quantum brain's influence, though at a controlled scale. In this sense, we are more than passive constructs. We are co-creators within the vast construct of reality, entrusted with the power to participate in its ongoing evolution. As co-creators, our sapience is not merely a gift, but a responsibility with real meaning. The idea that we are beings made in the image of an omnipotent and omniscient entity and entrusted with free will for a greater purpose is deeply reminiscent of the Abrahamic view of God. Meanwhile, the concept that God is the single substance from which all things emerge echoes Spinozan thoughts on divinity. If the quantum brain accurately captures how the divine interacts with reality, it bridges these two concepts. An eternal entity that transcends reality is present within it and both creates and sustains it. Regardless, imagining the upper limits of consciousness within our knowledge of reality is incredibly thought-provoking, showing that Werner Heisenberg was right in that there is something truly magnificent at the bottom of the glass.